So Chelsea scored a late-minute equaliser to draw 1-1 with Man City, who were down to 9 players. Guro Reiten got the goal in the 96th minute to save their bacon. Referee Emily Heaslip sent Alex Greenwood off after a second yellow card for time wasting in the 38th minute. So Greenwood had got her first yellow card after 17 minutes for a late tackle on Jessie Fleming. And I don't think anyone...
I think that was a booking.
It seems fair. There wasn't a lot around that.
An early booking, but a booking.
But then Greenwood in the 38th minute took, I think it was about 26 seconds, I think, by the time the referee had blown for the free kick and the point in which she'd taken it. Heaslip did blow her whistle at a point in that, but BBC pundits were very critical, and Casey Stoney was probably one of the most vocal, saying it was possibly the most ridiculous red card she'd ever seen. Ian Wright also coming out and saying, what the hell was that, basically. Rach, what were your thoughts when you saw the yellow card and then the red card come out for Greenwood? Because I think a lot of people were shocked that there was this... To me, it didn't feel like Greenwood was wasting time, essentially. It was the 38th minute. It was a weird time to be doing that, if that was a game management strategy that City had. But also, it just looked to me like she was trying to figure out where the next pass was going to go. And also, Emily Heaslip seemed to be in the line of one of the potential passing options. So, and then she played it back. I don't think there was any need for that yellow red card, and that completely affects the game.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. At that time of the match, if this was the 75th, the 85th minute, fine, I'd understand it. But realistically, and we keep saying 26 seconds, when you watch the game, it takes 5 or 6 seconds after the whistle's blown for Alex Greenwood to actually be standing over the ball. Mm-hmm. She's a captain. She's waiting for her players. And you know what often happens when you see this being like a big hectic moment in a game? You just take a second to calm things down, get your players in position. She's looking for a pass. She considers going short. I think Mia Fishel maybe steps forward and cuts out that pass. She looks further down the pitch. She's basically struggling to find a pass. And I don't actually think it was that long. And what's really interesting is the BBC have done an article on whether or not it was a fair dismissal, whether she was really wasting time. And the average time delay in the WSL in 2022-23 in 132 games for a free kick was 32 seconds.
Wow.
And the average time so far in across 12 games for a free kick is 34 seconds this season. So is 26 seconds time wasting? Realistically, are Manchester City time wasting in the 38th minute 1-0 up against Chelsea? They're not. It's not, right? And this is an issue with a rule like this that is based on discretion, is that players aren't mind readers. Mm-hmm. Like, so if a ref is deciding that 26 seconds is now the new threshold, that needs to be communicated to players. You know, and I know Emma Hayes came out and said, oh, the referee communicated it to us. We all knew it was going on. That's not true. Unless the referee came in and said, by the way, if you go over 25 seconds, you're going to get booked for time wasting. That's just not true. I don't believe that. So it was disappointing because I've definitely noticed that cards are coming out left, right and centre. This weekend, I think there was 30 cards across the games, maybe?
11 in that game alone.
11 in that game alone. I think it was 30 across the league.
And that is a record, by the way.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. You know, I was at West Ham Brighton, and there was a lot of cards in that game as well. And there was confusion. So I'm basically a touchline reporter kind of for the studio, and I'm letting them know when people are getting... It's even confusing for us, because you're like, wait, someone's gotten booked for something that you don't expect them to get booked for. You're trying to communicate with someone up in the press box going, was that a yellow card? And they're like, I don't actually know what's going on either. So it's something I think we're going to have to get used to. It's something I do think that needs to be looked at, because if it's something that's going to be based on discretion, that needs to be clearly communicated.
Yeah, I think so. There was an understanding. Charlotte Harper's done an amazing article on this specific point, and sort of she did a crazy sort of in-depth look and a behind-the-scenes WSL referee feedback session, which was incredible. And it sort of looked at exploring, you know, the fact that the referees had actually communicated that they weren't going to be a bit of a crackdown on things like dissent, on things like time wasting. And I think the overall view of that is that, one, you should be in a position where you are keeping the referees safe. So things like dissent, you know, coming up, getting in their faces, being aggressive, absolutely clamp down on that. Because the WSL, you know, the players are now role models. We can't. How many videos and clips do we see at grassroots level of like boys, mainly young boys, men in football who are throwing abuse at referees, worse, abusing them, or even worse still, physically attacking them. So I think 100% dissent all day. And I think it doesn't help that people like Gareth Taylor and Jonas Eidevall are getting booked as well. That doesn't set a great precedent for the standard of behaviour in the management. But I think things like time wasting techniques, I think yeah, we do need to be clamping down on that, because we are looking at a sort of trend where we're seeing, the Man United Chelsea game, the Manchester City Chelsea game. There was 12 minutes worth of extra time. I think in the Spurs game there were 8 minutes, and then in the
West Ham Brighton, there was 10.
it's that.
So you're getting doubly punished for time wasting. You're
Well,
getting booked and getting the time added on.
absolutely, but then you've got to look at the impact that those extra additional minutes are then having on the rest of the league, and how that looks in terms of injuries, player fatigue later on in the season. So I think I can understand the sort of the reasoning and the rationale behind that, but you do have to take it. I think time wasting, if it becomes if you've got players who are continuously doing it throughout the course of the game, absolutely they've got to clamp down on that. But when that yellow card is a red card, effectively, you've got to look at how that impacts the competitiveness of the league. If you've got players like Lauren Hemp, you've got players like Alex Greenwood who are being out for a game, and Charlotte mentioned this in her incredible article about the impact that has disproportionately, I suppose, on the women's game, because you've got fewer games across the league as opposed to the Premier League, where obviously a one game ban doesn't mean as much when you've got, I think, 38 fixtures, but you have 22 in the WSL. So I do think there needs to be more discretion and a little bit more of kind of that a warning would have sufficed. Don't do that again. I think you're taking the mick a little bit.
Time.
I'll book you next time. That would have sufficed for me. I think that was way too far. We do have a question in from Vicky DeCamp on Instagram. She said, should players not have some right to question decision, even if it's just to aid understanding or expectations?
That's what it felt like in that game. It felt like the players couldn't even say, what the hell, ref? Like, what's that for? They just got booked for everything. And I appreciate we do need to protect referees. We see it far too often, particularly in the men's game, coming up, surrounding the referee. It's not on. But it almost felt like you just weren't allowed to question anything. It was frustrating because it frustrated the Manchester City players. And, Lauren Hemp, I felt like that red card was inevitable once she got booked for dissent. To go in and make a tackle like she did.
Yeah.
It was almost inevitable. But the dissent thing just seemed mad. Like, that unusual decision to send off Alex Greenwood is going to cause players to go, hang on, ref, what's going on? Like, she wasn't time wasting. And Jill Roord, Alexandria, I think both got booked in that instance. They were just being handed out left, right and centre. Same thing happened at the West Ham game. I think it was Ueki who got booked, and it seemed like all she did was turn to the ref and say, what? What's going on, kind of thing. And look, we don't know, they're not mic'd up, we don't know what's being said, but you'd still need to be able to speak to the ref. There has to be some communication, some level of respect both ways. And I fully agree with getting rid of dissent and surrounding the referees. I hate seeing that, but it just seemed to get entirely out of hand. And when we talk about consistency across decisions, Ashley Lawrence absolutely flattened Lauren Hemp. She didn't even get booked.